Hey everybody, this is Amazing Fantasy Football. I am Josh and he is,
And I am Chris.
and Chrissy always is. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing wonderful. Doing great.
Excellent, excellent. So, everyone watching this on YouTube might see that last week we had some technical difficulties. I have been sick this past week with a sinus infection, so I didn't have a chance to really fix it. We do apologize for that. If you're listening to it some podcast format, you're going to be like, "What?" Yeah, last week's episode is fine. Sorry about all the technical difficulties in my audio. Got that problem fixed, as you can probably hear.
Probably here.
But
Yeah.
we are here today to talk about some ADP and how we hate these certain players' ADP. Um, yeah. So,
ADP
how are you doing?
versus
I think,
AFFB, or no, AFFB versus ADP.
yeah, either way, we're gonna kick its butt. Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
Disagree with
yeah,
it strongly.
yes. Well,
Disagree
in
with each
certain
other
cases.
strongly.
Well, we had a little argument pre-show about one of these guys. So yeah. Um, Chris brought this to my attention before we started recording that Jeff Wilson, hey guys, it's Jeff. He is out 4 to 6 months with what kind of injury again? What was that?
Meniscus damage. Sorry, I put it on the monitor way over here for some unknown reason. Out 4 to 6
Nah,
months
that's
after
cool.
knee surgery. Wilson recently underwent knee surgery to repair a torn meniscus and is expected to
Ew.
miss 4 to 6 months.
I think I said weeks and I meant months. So yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean,
So Jeff is going
playoff
to be
time, maybe.
out until what is that? The beginning of November potentially. And that just gives us room for Trey Sermon and my dude, something
Elijah
Mitchell.
Mitchell.
Thank you.
I
I,
almost
I
said
was
more.
getting to it. Nope, that's a wide receiver. And we can't talk about enough mores on this podcast.
Mm.
Video, whatever.
Fun news flash. I don't think there's any more
Is
in
it
today's
Moore
show.
related? Is it related to someone named Moore?
No, I think that's the problem. We
Well, we can't
we
talk
might have
about
to
it then.
cancel this show entirely. There's nobody named
Yeah.
Moore in this show. Is there?
Ooh. Show's over.
The show's over. Thank you. Goodbye. No, don't stop.
Everyone,
Don't click on a different
Amazing Fantasy
video.
Football. Have a good day. And we don't have any more to talk about, so we're done.
We'll see you next year.
What, what do you got now?
That was it. I was saying
Okay.
funny enough that there's nobody named Moore in this episode.
All right. Why don't you kick us off, Chris? Who do you got? Who's your first disagreement with ADP?
My first disagreement, we'll get this out of the way because my list is a little running back heavy, kind of like yours, which is we agreed is very important. Year in and year out.
I wasn't trying to focus on a specific position. I was just going by, well, ooh, that guy's going.
Yep. And I feel like that I did the same thing, and it kind of steered me in the direction of a lot of running backs. But I'm going to open it with receiver. Michael Thomas has an ADP of 212.
And is that too high or too low for you?
It's too high. It's not terrible.
Ooh.
And we'll parse that here in a
Interesting.
second as far as how
Go
far
for it.
down I might move him. But my issue with him going over others at the 212 is quarterback situation. It's not stable. In fact, it's quite unpredictable. Drew Brees, however, the epitome of his career of stable, predictable, reliable. Drew Brees surpassed or flirted with surpassing 5,000 yards every single season for a better part of a decade. When you look at his career numbers, you'll see in the last 3 or 4 years, 5,000 yards was not attainable. Number one, volume. They went more run heavy. Number two, injury. So they become a running team. So even if one wanted to argue that Thomas is in the vaunted New Orleans offense of old where they threw the ball a lot, that's not going to be the situation. So he has to be, in order for him to finish like he did in 2019, he has to have an insane amount of volume, like Marvin Harrison volume from back in the 2000s with Peyton Manning and whatnot.
With Peyton Manning, yep.
Yeah, exactly. So
Wide-eyed Marvin Harrison. Remember, like he's always like. And for those listening in audio, like Marvin Harrison was always just like huge, like wide-eyed, like
very
at all
wide-eyed,
times,
yeah.
like, and he was like never blinking. He was just constantly like looking around and everything. Like that's probably like a good trait to have as a wide receiver. Like you're just,
to go back
eyes
even
are open,
further, another
looking
player
around.
that comes to mind, Mike Singletary. He did have the same
Oh,
look.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if going back to Thomas, if somebody wants to kind of suggest that he can make up for subpar quarterback play and a decrease in volume and still go off the board as a wide receiver 8 before the likes of Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin, I would strongly disagree. So you got him at the 212. Yeah, that's
Yep.
more or less the
So
names.
you would tell. Okay, so you don't like Michael Thomas that much. Would you rather have? I'm just going to do this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather have Michael Thomas or J.K. Dobbins? You're on the clock. Real quick. Don't think about it. Just knee-jerk reaction. J.K.
I'd
Dobbins,
prefer
Michael Thomas.
Dobbins. I'll go positional scarcity.
Okay. Okay. Michael Thomas or Julio Jones?
Thomas
Come
is
on, quick,
still
quick,
is
quick,
still a
quick.
1. Julio's probably a 1B or a 2, wherever he ends
Okay.
up.
Even though he's probably switching teams. Michael Thomas or Allen Robinson?
Allen Robinson.
Okay. Michael Thomas or Mike Evans? Come on. Come on. Quick,
Evans.
quick, quick, quick.
Evans.
Amari Cooper.
Ooh, that's even closer, I feel like. Cooper.
Okay,
I,
these are
I,
all guys that are going after Michael
yeah.
Thomas and ADP, and we're
Mm-hmm.
going, and Amari Cooper's all the way down to the 405.
That's what I
So
was just looking at.
you're thinking that Michael Thomas is going
There's a whole
roughly
round,
around.
almost a round and a half, really.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Quarterback situation scares the dickens out of me.
okay. I'm kind of okay. Michael Thomas or David Montgomery.
Probably Thomas. He's probably Montgomery is not one of my favorite running backs. Pretty
Me
low on him.
neither. And I didn't bring up David Montgomery because I excluded him from my conversation because I was just like I'm going to. It's going to be nauseating.
You reflexively glossed over him.
Well, I mean, I just figured we're going to talk about it. We have talked about him enough, and we're going
True.
to. So I'm
True.
just like I'm skipping over David Montgomery.
Yep. That's a
Honorable
good point.
mention, and just to get some fresh names out there for
Yep.
me. So yeah.
Yep. Who is at the
All right. Cool.
309 Montgomery? That is 309 ADP.
So you think Michael Thomas should go in more like fourth round than Adam Thielen, Michael Thomas? How
Sounds
about
like
that?
into third, beginning of fourth. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I like
Just
McLaren better. Yeah. Gosh. Okay. That's why we're having this
McLaurin. Okay.
conversation.
All right. My first guy is, I did this in no particular order other than, I was like, oh, this guy or that guy. My first guy is Gabriel Davis. Gabriel Davis, wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills. He is currently going 1309, so like the back half of the 13th round. This is way too low. Okay. He had a pretty good rookie year, you know. He ended up with I'm sorry. He ended up with 35 receptions for 599 yards. We'll just call it 600 yards. And 7 touchdowns in 11 games with the Bills. That's not bad. Not bad at all. Or I'm sorry, he's in 11 starts. But some of that was due to John Brown being injured and whatever. But John Brown's gone now. Gabriel Davis is probably going to be the wide receiver 2 in Buffalo.
That's actually while you're
And
talking, I'm looking up their depth chart and their draft picks
mhm.
yeah, that's exactly where I was heading. Continue.
Yeah, and so he to put this all in perspective that so like I said, John Brown's gone now. So now you take like let's say we take 70% of John Brown's workload and add it to Gabriel Davis's numbers from last year. We ended up with 58 receptions, 920 yards, 9 touchdowns, which all ends up to being about 175 fantasy points. Where does 175 fantasy points get you to? It gets you to wide receiver number 25 that you're taking
Oh,
in the
nice.
13th round.
Yeah.
Like that, I mean, that is way too low. That's a steal right there. And then like there's potentiality. That's not really a word, but we're gonna say it anyways. That Gabriel Davis gets even higher numbers too, gets more opportunities, more targets. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the Bills. I don't think the Bills are gonna be as pass happy as they were last year, but there's definitely a
I don't think they want to be.
there's a chance. I don't think they want to be either, but I think there's a chance that it happens again. And if it does, in the 13th round, you get this guy.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's going way too low. And
Mm-hmm.
probably by the time drafts roll around at the end of August, beginning of September, very beginning of September, it will climb. But if you're doing a draft right now or somewhere in June, the beginning of July, and he's still in the 11th round, smash that draft button right there.
Yeah, and
How does that make you? How does that warm you up to Gabe Davis at all?
I think it gives me warm fuzzies inside. I think the only pushback, playing devil's advocate, and you kind of just addressed it with your last comment about volume there. Um,
Hmm.
would you have a quarterback like Allen and you're a playoff contender, you're a Super Bowl contender, let's
Hmm.
call it what it is. You do what you have to do to win games, and sometimes that's lean on your quarterback. This is a pass happy league. Pass is more efficient because the
Right.
detractors will say, well, yeah, he might be the two, but he's really not the two because the slot is Beasley and he's always on the field. I say always. I don't mean that literally, but you understand what I'm saying.
There's
He's
that. There
among the
is
best
that
slot guys in the league.
pure slot. Yes.
Yeah, bar none. Like he's that good. Even if you're not talking
Yeah,
just stats, like
and
talent.
he's a professional too. He's a pros pro, that sort
Yeah,
of thing.
and he would
Um,
take opportunity from Davis. And then the last thing I was going to say is this guy they drafted, Marquez Stevenson, not bad college production. In fact, he's kind of a touchdown scorer, is what it
yeah,
looks like, and a
but
big play
I think
guy.
one of the reasons why they let
Speed.
John Brown walk is because of Gabe Davis's you know progression as a rookie.
Yeah, I think it's a
So,
great find.
anyways, who's your next guy?
Oh, I'm up. Mixon, Joe Mixon, ADP of
Ooh.
212. You might say to yourself, I mean, that's pretty high. I mean, what? He's not the RB1, Chris. That seems pretty reasonable. Well, let's talk a little bit more about that. RB is the most important position to redraft and in fantasy in general. So I kind of went running back heavy in this list here, as I mentioned
Oh
earlier.
yeah, we are talking about redraft too. Sorry, I wanted to chime that in. I didn't say that at
Oh,
the
that's a
top.
good point. Yeah, we are. If you couldn't tell already, this is more a redraft centric show. We're talking
Yeah,
ADP,
sorry,
and
I'm still a little
that's okay.
congested,
We
so
kind
my
of
brain
turned the
is not
page on
100%.
we'll never turn the page completely on Dynasty, but we're moving towards more towards redraft given the month that it
And
is.
now it's redraft.
Exact
Yep.
turn the page. Here's a fun tidbit. Mixon has never scored more than 10 touchdowns in a season. I think that's about to change. The law of averages, the regression to the mean. I think the volume is going to be there in Cincy. I think you're going to see a great offense. I think he's going to reap the benefits, assuming health, of course. I firmly believe he would have been back last season if Burrow had been playing. I think they kind of shelved Mixon for a bit. They're like, you really helped this offense go. We're not in playoff contention. We're playing for Jamar Chase at this point. We're playing for a high draft pick. So let's just lean on some other guys. Speaking of other guys, let's see here. 2017. Oh well,
So here,
go ahead. Go ahead.
while you, sorry to interrupt, but so here's the problem with Joe Mixon, and I am sort of playing devil's advocate to your Joe Mixon here,
Mm-hmm.
real quick, is that I hate to keep beating the same drum, but Cincinnati's offensive line is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It was ranked 29th by a PFF 2 years in a row. 29th. That's really bad. They did next to nothing to address it. Now, you can say that they didn't do much, and they have invested draft capital and free agency into their offensive line in previous off seasons. It still scares the bejesus out of me that Joe Mixon has not done. He has done a lot with very little as far as offensive line, but he can still have those problems this coming year. And I think with this ADP, it's kind of baked in. Now, I would rather have Mixon than DeAndre Swift, as who is going just above him in ADP. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would rather have Mixon than Josh Jacobs is going right behind him. But I don't know. I think it's pretty fair right there. I don't, and
Where's
I
my
don't know.
ADP? There it
What
is.
do you think? Where do you think he would go?
I
Would
think
you rather have
I
Joe
know it's
Mixon?
I know they were there
Would you
last
rather have
year.
Mixon or Cam Akers? He's going 7 spots above him.
Mixon.
Okay.
Mixon.
Would you rather have Mixon or Calvin Ridley? Three
Ooh,
spots
probably
above him.
Ridley. Probably Ridley. I'm probably
Okay.
going
Okay.
receiver there.
Okay. Mixon or Darren Waller? 3 spots above him,
I'm probably going to running
according
back
to.
there. Mixon.
Okay.
I,
Yeah.
I tend to wait on
So,
tight end.
and one quick side note too, we are
Hmm.
going by fantasy football calculators,
Right. Fantasy football
half
calculator.
PPR ADP,
ADP.
which we just wanted to give context in case someone's like, well, that's not what Fantasy Pros says,
Mm-hmm.
or that's not what this website that I'm using says. You know,
Right.
it's just
No,
to give people context.
sure. No, I would say last couple things just address the offensive line. I know the coach was there last year, but it's still a relatively new coaching staff. I would hope they can coach the guys up that they do have, assuming there is
Hmm.
some modicum of talent there. And just a faster paced offense, less conservative offense, I think plays to the strengths of both Burrow and Mixon. Mixon played in the spread at Oklahoma. So I think those will help mitigate some of those protection
He did go
issues.
to Oklahoma, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
2017 was his first year. He averaged 3.5 yards per carry and then 3.6 yards last year. Of course, he was hurt. So sandwiched in between that, he had 2 really good years. I think it was 4.5, somewhere in that ballpark of average, which shows good
Yeah.
efficiency. I would also say, the exceptions to the rule, the bad quarterback play and injuries. Oh, and a little thing called Geo the Stash Bernard was in town, and he's gone now. So, talking about volume, talk about opportunity.
Yeah, but they took some running backs too to maybe take Gio's spot as well. So Gio's maybe contract,
They
maybe
also,
kind of ineffectiveness. I
well,
don't
yeah,
know. I like.
contract.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say I disagree with you. I love Joe
Mm-hmm.
Mixon. Don't you know? Like I don't know. I kind of agree with its current ADP at the moment. I don't agree with some of the guys going above him,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not bumping him up that much further. I guess I'm not bumping him to the beginning of the second round versus the end of the second. That's me personally. Personally, I'm not doing that.
Right around. Okay, so running back of Gibson, I'm probably I'm going Mixon over him. I'm taking Eckler over Mixon. We talked about Akers.
Mhm.
Yeah, we talked about receiver. Yeah, half around is kind of where I'm at, I guess, and so it's not
So it's not that
crazy.
bad then.
And he's only 24 years old. This is a redraft
Oh.
show. Yeah, exactly. This is a redraft show, so you know.
No, but that's
Yeah.
it is a redraft centered show, but at the same time, like that's still I thought he was a little bit older.
I think he's
So I
gonna have
mean, he's
fresh.
in his prime right there. He's in his
Yeah,
prime right there, like
and
his
fresh legs because he rested last season, in my
okay.
opinion. Yeah. So yeah,
Pressure, I
he
guess.
might. I mean,
Last
he
two
might even creep
seasons.
up more for me. I'm very high on him. I even thought about making a
Okay,
move in
okay.
Dynasty for him. It's just
I don't
it's
know
so
why his
rich.
age. I don't know why his age all of a sudden made changed my mind. Like,
I saved
maybe I
it for the
should think of him a
last.
little bit
Or
higher.
I saved it for the last on purpose. I thought it was kind of the kick. In fact, I literally typed, "Here's the kicker." He's only 24 years old. I
Okay.
almost hesitate on that because it's a little more of a dynasty tick. But as you say, it does show wear, tear, likelihood of injury or less likelihood of injury. So I'm very high on Mixon for sure.
Okay. Here is one we are going to argue over. And we
Woo!
already did. We already did
Yep.
pre-recording. In fact, I got very in your face about it. But Jonathan Taylor, he's going at I'm sorry, he's going at 107 right now. I have him written down as 108 because that's what it was last night. This is way too high. I think and I'm a Colts fan. I love Jonathan Taylor. I have a Jonathan Taylor jersey. That's how much I love him. I loved
I
him
didn't.
coming out of Wisconsin. I was happy to see him go to the Colts. What
Mm-hmm.
I do not like is that the Colts re-signed Marlon Mack. They still have Naeem Hines. And I think that everyone is forgetting about the first 10 weeks of last season. Jonathan Taylor wasn't that great, folks. He really wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And what did he do the last few weeks? Was great. It was amazing. It really, really was. And that was him coexisting with Naeem Hines. I get it. He also
Mm-hmm.
faced some of the worst run defenses in football in those 6 weeks. That's that's a lot. That's saying a lot right there. In the last 6 weeks, he played Green Bay, terrible. Or I'm sorry, he played Tennessee twice. They're terrible. Green Bay was really bad. Houston was really bad. Played them twice. Really banged up Pittsburgh defense. Jacksonville. These are really, really, really bad run defenses, or they
Mm-hmm.
were at that point last year. And he did good against those. That's great. I'm really happy for him, and I loved it. I love watching him. What little I did get to last year. I mean, I'm sorry, but before then, his best game was 14.4 points, and that was against the Browns. After that, his worst game. So his worst game was the first game against Tennessee in Week 10, 4.7 points. Other
Mm-hmm.
than that, 13.4, 21, 29.5, 17.5, 19.4, 37.9. That's great. All against really bad defenses. Now you can say like, well, he's going to get Jacksonville twice. He's going to get, Tennessee twice. And, like,
Mm-hmm.
he's going to get Houston twice. That's great. What about the other 10 games? Like, and you said beforehand that you think Marlon Mack is a non-factor. I don't think so, man. I think this coaching staff has proven that they will use a running back by committee, especially with the new 17 game season. It's just, I think that Jonathan Taylor should be going more towards the second half, the bottom half of the second round. So, like a round or a round and a half later, because of all these factors. When you factor in Naeem Hines, it could just be
Mm-hmm.
a Naeem Hines game. It could, maybe there's a Marlon Mack appearance here and there, and it just happens that Marlon Mack's having a good game, and so they're just riding the hot hand. Like, I get it. The Colts used a second round pick on Jonathan Taylor. I think he is very talented. I just don't think, I think with drafting him at the 107, you're ignoring guys like Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler. These are all guys that are going after Jonathan Taylor, who I'd much rather have.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Um, while I agree, he's I guess, a tad. That's a technical term, folks. He's a tad high. That's what I think. Um,
A tad.
Push comes to shove. Again, a little bit was discussed off air. Right around mid second is kind of where you're at with him, 205 ish. It's just that's right where the RB1s run out. I also pushed back a little and said, well, do you or do you not believe he's an RB1? And you said no, which I think is insane. However,
I think he has. I think he has potential. I think it's just it's too risky. It's too rich and it's too risky
mm-hmm,
at 107. And one thing that I like to do, and this is personal philosophy. Maybe
mm-hmm,
you're different. That's
mm-hmm,
cool. We can be different. We can coexist. Our differences can coexist. Is that in the first round, I want guys that are going to be scoring or have the that I'm almost positive are going to score me 18 plus points a week.
mm-hmm.
I want on a weekly basis, I don't want a roller coaster ride
You
of,
want
well,
consistency.
this is 30 points this week, it's 10 points the next, blah, blah, blah. I want guys that I think are going to score 18 points every single week. Not average 18 points, score 18 points or so every week. Maybe
Yeah, I
more like
understand
16,
what
17.
you're trying to say. Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to
And
put it.
so
Mm-hmm,
and so if I have to bump Jonathan Taylor out and put Travis Kelce in the first round, or a Tyreek Hill, or a Stephon Diggs, or an Austin Eckler, or a Metcalf, or a DeAndre Hopkins, like, that's fine. I'm fine with that. And if someone thinks differently, that's cool. If you think Jonathan Taylor is going to get you 18 points a week, that's great. I don't agree with you. What do you say? Oh, and to put
mm-hmm,
the cherry on the on top, is that the Colts are going to kind of struggle a little bit at left tackle this season, at least to begin the year. Eric Fisher's probably not going to be there for the start of the season. It's going to be Sam Tevy, who is a competent blocker, but not great. He's not going to be
mm-hmm.
Anthony Costanzo.
I would say I would subscribe to the tackle argument more than the others because I do believe he'll be we'll see a more consistent Jonathan Taylor. I think with the abbreviated, almost like it was non-existent off season, no preseason. I feel like running back is a rhythm position, and he never quite got his rhythm. And yes, they had a subpar, or I say subpar. They had an offensive line struggles. Is the easiest way to put that. And you don't figure those are going to get better missing a left tackle. But I think he's going to make up for some of that by hopefully we see some good play from Wentz. I just think that going much further past the mid-second round is much too far for what I believe to be an RB1 at the end of the day. Even if I believe he's an RB, like the RB12, instead of a top 5 guy like some folks believe, I just think receivers so deep that I am going to pay up for some of these running backs, and Taylor is one of them
That's okay. I mean,
because I can
I'm
get
also talking about.
great
I
receivers
would like to
later.
throw in that it is the very end of May when we're recording this too. Now,
Oh,
if
for
the
sure.
coaches come out, and say, or there's got to be a lot of hype here for
Mm-hmm.
me to
Mm-hmm.
actually get on board with Jonathan Taylor. If they come out and say, we want to have the offense run through this guy and passing is going to be our secondary concern. Okay, so like
Mm-hmm.
now we're talking end of the first,
It can
fine.
be a
But even
combination of a
then,
couple of tidbits.
107, like that's mid first round, man.
Well, and
I'd
we were
rather
on the same
have
page there. I thought 107 was a bit rich. I'm higher on Chubb. I'd rather have Chubb, Eckler,
Zeke or Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor easily. So
I think
saith
I'm
the
gonna go
Cowboys. So
Zeke.
saith the Cowboys fan to the Colts fan,
I think I'm gonna. Yeah,
or whatever
honestly,
that's
I think I'm
worth.
gonna go Zeke.
I
Yeah,
do. There is
and
so
Eckler.
me being a pessimist. There is a little bit of optimism in me that we're going to see a, let's just call it, Pro Bowl caliber season from Zeke, and maybe an All
Okay.
Pro caliber season, like almost maybe flirt with 2,000 yards
From
type
who?
of from Zeke as a kind of a last hurrah. It's just I'm
Okay.
so terrified about the work that he's put in, the miles on the tires. I think
You can say that
Pollard
about
fits the
Jonathan
off.
Taylor too.
In college, true,
He's
true.
younger, but
Yeah. Well,
but
he
you
was
know.
his
Anyways,
carries were managed last year until the end. Whether they were
I
managed
guess
because of performance or, you know,
performance.
I think it was a little bit of both. But
No.
I'm still not denying the
Anyways.
fact that he did not perform well. I think we'll see more
Okay.
efficient Taylor for sure.
Okay. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe my tune will change as the off season goes along and we get closer towards draft time. Probably not.
Mm-hmm. You're
All right,
taking.
man. Who's your next guy?
Let's just go right into Eckler because it's really kind of the same conversation. Similar area. Obviously, ADP is different. 107 versus the 203 for Austin Eckler is where Eckler's at, but we're both a bit higher on Eckler. Obviously, in PPR formats, which we're all playing in nowadays, you're probably going
Not
to bump it.
everyone though. Some people there's fantasy football purists that are just like PPR is terrible.
They're probably
If you
not
really want to
drafting
play,
Eckler then. Somebody's probably taking him too early for them to like
but I mean
Eckler.
even in a non PPR, like
Mm-hmm.
you still get points for his receiving yards,
And touchdowns. Yep.
and
Yep.
in non PPR Eckler is 205, so he's going two spots lower
Oh,
on
that's
average.
that's surprising, but okay. So yeah, I mean, it's just I love the offense. Similar stuff with Mixon and the Bengals. I want pieces of the Chargers and the Bengals offense this season. I would take Eckler over Taylor. For what
Okay,
good? What do you?
so Austin
Go
Eckler,
ahead.
Aaron Jones,
That's right about where I was heading. Probably still going Aaron Jones. I don't like the question marks about Rodgers, but as we've discussed,
Eckler or Travis Kelsey,
Eckler,
Zeke,
Eckler,
Chubb,
Chubb,
and Davante Adams.
Adams. So he's an RB1 for me
Okay.
at the
Okay, yeah, he's
back
going. You got
at the
him in the
back of the
first round.
first.
I
At
mean,
the back of the first. Yeah.
it's not that big of a difference.
In fact,
I
if
don't know.
I'm
You're talking about a half round difference. Maybe I think you're kind
mhm.
of splitting hairs a little too much, but I get it. I mean, Austin Eckler in every draft that I did last year, he went in the second round. I thought it was ridiculous, but I think in hindsight, think that was pretty valuable. I
If
think
he'd
that
have
was
been
pretty
healthy,
right.
I think it'd have been a
I
fine
think.
pick
Oh yeah, but I mean, like I think this
last
year
year.
I'm all on Eckler. I think Eckler belongs in the first round. I just like.
Good, good.
I think we're. I'm guessing like maybe the 107 where Jonathan Taylor's going. Then
I was gonna wait for you to finish talking. I was saying so if I'm moving, which I did agree with from the beginning, I'm moving Taylor down some, not 2.5 rounds. No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't 2.5 rounds, but a bit.
I'm saying the whole round for
I'm probably
Taylor. But
taking
yeah,
whether Adams is my number one receiver or not. I'm taking a receiver over Taylor, so move him down one. I'm taking Chubb over him. You said Zeke. I said no. I'm taking Jones. That's probably right about where I'm at. Taking Jones over Taylor, and I'm taking barely taking Jones over Eckler. So yeah, again, into first RB1 territory. I'm prioritizing that a little
okay,
bit.
okay, cool. Let's do our next people. We cheated a little bit, and we crossed the streams a little bit, and we're talking Ghostbusters, not anything else. We both came up with James Robinson and Travis Etienne. I'm assuming that you think that James Robinson is too high, and Travis Etienne is way too low,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. So James Robinson right now, and like I said, this is the end of May, so we're a
I'm gonna
month
pass out.
after the end. What?
I'm gonna pass out when you say his ADP. It's ridiculous. It's so
This is
ridiculous.
we're a month after the NFL draft. A little more than a month. Exactly a month actually. James Robinson 304. Travis Etienne what is he? Did I not write it down? What the heck? He's the like 1101, the first pick of the 11th round.
He's like the RB
That's
18. I don't want
who
James Robinson. He's like the RB
he is
18
the
as far as ADP goes.
And you were all about James Robinson last year and everything, and I was kind of like, well, I mean, he's not that talented, but I mean, he ended up as what the RB8 on the season,
Yep.
and or somewhere in that neighborhood, and so that's good. That's great production with a bad offensive line in Jacksonville. They were just running him. They were running him ragged. That's
Mm-hmm.
cool. Like, and I love that Travis Etienne gets drafted in the first round by the Jacksonville Jaguars and this new coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, like with the first round pick. You're not drafting a guy in the first round for next year. You're
Nope.
drafting him
You're
in
not
the
drafting the
first
guy in the
round.
first round at the running back position to play him at slot receiver. No, you're not doing
No.
it.
No, and they have a slot receiver already. They have receivers. They're three deep there
Mm-hmm.
in Jacksonville. And yeah, they'll probably line him up on the outside. And there are going to be times where James Robinson's in the backfield and Etienne's out there as a pass catching weapon. But man, this
Not
is
enough.
This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous.
RB18. I don't want him as my RB2. I don't believe
No,
anybody
not at
listening
all.
at home wants him as their RB2.
No,
You
James
figure
Robinson is sitting there in like or should be like an RB5 or 6, and maybe as like your handcuff to Etienne.
to Etienne.
I think.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if
We're
you even
basically
wanted to
flipping
handcuff
the
them.
script exactly. So I mean, you got to at least predict he's going to lose
This,
PPR work. He's at least going to lose that, and he was very good. I think it was 60 catches
yeah.
in that neighborhood. So
I
that's
mean,
great.
is there something that people aren't telling me about Etienne that he's going so low? Like,
It's just this
why won't
stuff they're believing
why won't they tell me?
and to be fair, I
Why
mean,
don't
you
they-
talked about this off air, the assumption of reasonable coaching, rational coaching. Meyer has been out there in the press, as he likes to do, is saying that Robinson's still going to get a lot of carries. That Etienne's more of a slot. Percy Harvin. This I believe is vetted. This I believe was proven to be fact, although it came from a rumor, I guess. But it seems to be understood that it's fact that he wanted who's the New York receiver, Florida receiver. He just took not Tutu Atwell.
Kadarius Toney.
Kadarius Toney. He wanted Kadarius Toney in this role. That tells you he was willing to take Toney at this spot, except a worse franchise, a worse GM took Toney earlier. So he was like, oh, okay, fine. I guess I'll take Etienne and put him into this Percy Harvin-esque role that we keep hearing about.
That's what Laviska Chenault can do, though. That's what I don't understand.
That argument's been made also to the contrary. Etienne's too accomplished through the air to not play in this in some of those situations. But look what he did on the ground at Clemson, dude. He's a very efficient player. He's going to be in a spread. The spread has worked its way in.
I don't know about this because
who would you rather have on
maybe,
the field out of these three if you had to choose on a particular down? You could throw third down out there if you wanted. Etienne, James Robinson, or who would be the slot? Chenault, because I think he would be in slot because the other two guys are strictly.
Who would I rather have out there?
Yeah.
Or
assuming they go three receivers more than they go two running backs, I guess is what I'm saying. You can't have Robinson.
I mean, it kind of depends, but yeah, I mean, if it's like first and goal, Robinson, but I mean, otherwise, no. I'm picking Etienne to be the running back out there,
and then the receiver. Like you're not going to put him on the field at the same time,
and then
you're not going to put Robinson in.
No,
Etienne
probably not.
You're probably going to go three wide and put Chenault out there.
Yeah.
Assuming,
well, I mean, we're on the same page here
Jones.
too. Like what we're saying here, folks, is that like Etienne, I think Urban Meyer has a long history of using one running back, and I don't think it's James Robinson. I think they drafted Etienne because Urban Meyer thinks that he's a do-it-all guy, and he certainly can be. He's a little lacking in power, but he's also it's not like he's a pushover though.
The only time he didn't was 1 year in Ohio State.
Clemson?
16 or 7, 26, no, Meyer. 2016 or 17, maybe. It was Samuel played this hybrid role. And he had like 600 or 700 rushing, 600 or 700 receiving. So that's the only time he's done it. And my argument to that is that he did it because of the personnel that he had. Uh,
Okay.
Forget I don't remember who the running back was in front of Samuel, who was more the
I'm not saying
primary
I'm not
back.
saying that Urban Meyer
But
can't change his philosophy when he. I
mhm.
mean, this is the first time he's ever coached in the NFL too. I think that he's going to stick with what he knows, and that's a one running back sort of thing. Now you can argue that maybe it's because of a longer season he's going to try and mix it up, but I don't think so, man. I think it's going to be mainly like 75% Etienne and 25% Robinson.
I
You
agree.
know,
I agree.
and if that's the case, and if that's the case, then Etienne should be going in like the fourth at the
Yeah,
worst.
I mean we're
You know.
talking the 11th round. I'm sure that's going to rise. I am sure that's going to rise, and
There's no way it can't. I
I
mean,
assume
unless Etienne
mathematically
gets injured,
exactly. So I
right?
assume Robinson will then also lower, but we're talking a huge discrepancy here, folks. Like,
That is insane.
don't listen to
I
this
I don't
hype. Yeah,
understand this.
yeah. We'll
I feel like
revisit
this
this
is
again
low
in
hanging fruit
August.
for us, but I mean, I feel like it needs to be
I
brought
feel like
up,
it has to be
right?
called out, though. I feel like it has to be called out.
Yeah, for sure.
And this again,
Who's
redraft, folks. We are not in dynasty mode. We are not in love with Etienne
right?
because of dynasty. This we believe
I
he
mean,
gets.
I am, but
I know, but we believe he's going to get
I took him in our
production.
dynasty draft.
We believe he's going to get production in year one. This isn't like a yeah.
That's why I took him in our dynasty draft. Is that I think that there's year one production there.
There you go.
That, and I really needed a running back too. So
Hmm.
like bad.
Yep.
Um, Anyways, I'm going to go on to my next guy, and that is Michael Carter, the running back by the New York Jets. His current ADP is even lower than Etienne, and it's 1205. And like this is too low. I think this is too low, and I feel like I'm being a broken record with Carter here. I think this guy has talent, and I don't think that the guys in front of him, who are Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson, are like the veterans there, and this
Hmm.
guy is obviously a rookie. Like, I don't understand why Tevin Coleman is going ahead of Michael Carter. I think that this is a team that is drafted Carter to have a role. Is he going to be an every down guy? No, I don't think so. But I think he's definitely has potential, and the 1205. I mean, here's some guy that's
Did
going
you say
ahead of him.
Tevin Coleman is going ahead of him?
I think so, yeah.
Oh God, I'll vet that in a second.
Um, here's some running backs that are going ahead of Michael Carter right now. Marlon Mack, Trey Sermon, Giovanni Bernard, Benny Snell, Tariq Cohen, Justin Jackson. They're all backups or role players, Tariq Cohen. And also Damian Williams. Damian Williams at the 10-11. Like, come on. Like, these are all guys other than Tariq Cohen that I would rather have instead of Michael Carter, because Michael Carter has more of a clear-cut path to fantasy relevance than any of these other jokers.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, I said earlier with Jonathan Taylor that Marlon Mack's going to have a role. Sure, but I would much rather have Michael Carter than Marlon Mack, because I think that Michael Carter has potential of being a solid RB2, or a nice RB3 slash bye week guy, whereas any of these other guys are not. They're just depth. They're garbage except for Tariq Cohen. You know,
Agreed. Yeah.
uh, hold on.
Excuse you.
Sorry,
Sorry.
still not 100% in health. Um, yeah, I mean, and look and listen to this too. This is in a timeshare last year. I know I said this in earlier shows about Michael Carter, but on 156 attempts, over 1,200 rushing yards,
Very efficient.
9 touchdowns. Like,
And if they can
man,
get him
this
on
guy
the
is.
edge in that zone,
He's
if he,
not. Yeah, he's not much of a speed guy per se for his size, but maybe he had a bad 40 time
I
too,
think he
and
had
it
bad
was.
40 time. I think he's a little deceptive. I'm not saying he's a track star, but yeah, I
No,
think
he's
it's
not.
wrong.
But I think
In
this
film, he
guy
came
could
off a
easily
lot
be.
faster.
Yeah, this guy could easily be
Mm-hmm.
like a sort of MJD-esque guy. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not quite that fast, but yeah,
I
definitely
just
has the size and capability of doing
I just
so.
think Coleman is a locker room guy.
I think he's a joke. I mean, it's just
Well,
I'm sorry.
I
I
just
don't
mean
believe
he's
in
there.
Tevin
He's
Coleman
there
at
to
all.
be, like the third or fourth running back, have some depth at the position, be a good locker room guy, willing to, bring the young guys along. I think he's a good,
I
in that
suppose.
regard, he's a decent player. But no, actually having him out there for more than a week,
We're also talking about
it's
fantasy
just
football too. So yeah,
right. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't want to touch Tevin Coleman. I do want Michael Carter on my team,
So
especially in the
you're
12th round.
saying
This is the
you won't trade for him in dynasty, is what you're saying?
Tevin Coleman.
Yep.
No.
Okay, I will write that down.
Stop trying to trade me your garbage, all right? Unless it's Zeke,
I'm
and
gonna
then
have
I'll
to cut
offer
him
you. Unless it's
eventually.
Zeke, and then I'll offer you a third round pick. You know,
Okay.
like I did.
Anyway,
Who's
back
your next
to
guy, man?
my next guy is my last guy. Yeah, because we already did Etienne and Robinson is a quarterback,
Oh,
Kyler Murray. Speaking of low hanging fruit, I almost didn't go this direction because I feel like it's implied a lot, but we have to remember that
are you too high? Do you think he's too high or too
I
low?
think it's way too high. And you know me, I love Kyler Murray. I love the Arizona offense. I want all this volume, hurry up offense. He's running around,
Yeah.
throwing deep bombs. However, his ADP is the 406, folks. I don't know about you, but I'm still filling out my skill positions, my running
In the
backs and
fourth round, yeah.
receivers, and maybe a tight end in the fourth round if I go
I don't
hot.
even start looking at quarterbacks until like
Hmm.
maybe the
Exactly.
seventh
So,
round,
so
but
this is my
usually more like the 10th.
So
That's me.
this is my annual public service announcement that I do every time because I play with
That's fine.
lots of more casual managers. We have a show that is just by its nature going to be geared a little bit more towards casual fans, and it is important to mention folks like Kyler Murray
Yeah.
because folks like me fall in love with his production. Folks like me fall in love with the player, his future that he has ahead of him. 4,000, 5,000 passing yards, 30, 40 touchdowns. You know, like all of these are into the realm of possibility of him attaining in reality. However, value. It's not worth it, folks. You want this year's Kyler Murray, not last year's Kyler Murray.
Exactly.
You
Exactly. And
want
that's what I don't understand when
you want
people
Mahomes first year. You want Mahomes first year. 2018 is it now? First year
20,
starting.
2018, 2019,
Yeah,
anyway,
you
anyways,
want
yeah.
that guy. You
2018.
want Lamar Jackson from 2019. You know, you
Yeah.
want to cash in on
Because
that
in
before that
2019,
ATB goes
if
too
no
high.
one because and to your point, if no one remembers, Lamar Jackson was like a 10th round pick or something in 2019. Like
Yep.
he was and he it was I mean like I don't remember the stat,
And
but it
even
was the
that was
majority
rising because of
the majority of like
chatter.
the fantasy leagues in 2019 and the championships were like you either had Christian McCaffrey or Lamar Jackson on your
Mhm.
team in the championship, or if you had both, then it was just you were the winner.
Because you
Like there
got to
was no way you
steal
didn't win.
because you waited on quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm totally on board with what
I mean, even like a round later,
you're.
one round, you can get the likes
Nah.
of right.
Oh, okay. Go
We're
ahead.
not going to go fifth, but just a round later, like almost to the T, you can get a Dak Prescott or a Justin Herbert at the 504 or the 505. Aaron
Wow,
Rodgers
Herbie's
at
going
the
that high.
Aaron Rodgers at the end
Damn.
of the fifth. Let's go down a little further. Let's go to double digits.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at full. I'm looking at non PPR. Not bad. Um.
First one in double
Yeah.
digits that
Herbie.
I see come up is Carson Wentz. Okay, I'm probably out on that to be honest with you. Baker. I see value there. Kirk Cousins? Seriously? At the 11, 12, the end of the 11th, folks.
Yeah. Well, I'd take
Uh,
Cousins every day on that. In that
or
case,
really drops off after that, but Tua,
that's
Taysom.
okay. I mean, it's also based on your draft too. Like I don't like to assign an arbitrary number to like
Hmm.
this is when I'm going to take my quarterback.
Yeah,
I
don't go
kind
out
of
there
like
saying
how
I'm read your room.
it definitely goes on the draft. Like if quarterbacks start flying off the board and it gets to a point like say in the eighth round and I'm looking at Matt Stafford
I was
or
just gonna
Ryan
say that's
Tannehill,
exactly
I'm
where I
I'm
went.
gonna I'm gonna go Matthew Stafford every day of the week because I'm not a Tannehill believer.
Hmm.
I mean
And
I kind of
that's
am
seven
now.
picks
I
you
kind
have
of
to
am
throw at
now,
running
but
back and receiver.
it's also volume with Tannehill as well because there's games where it's just the Derrick Henry game and Tannehill ends up with like 170 passing yards,
Mhm.
and a touchdown. Like,
But on the other
sorry,
hand, Derrick Henry set record highs in carries last year. You can't imagine that can continue. So either somebody takes more
I
carries.
think they're gonna try. I think they're gonna try. They're running this dude into the ground,
You
man.
may be
They
right there.
are.
That's not necessarily what I'm getting at, but like we said earlier, sometimes you do what you have to do to win games. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, I assume they stacked boxes last year and still couldn't stop Henry. So to your point,
man. The man is a mountain with legs.
yeah,
So
yeah. I'm just saying, they lose a receiver. You kind of can figure they go, more run heavy, but also I just don't see how they can keep it
yeah.
up. So maybe they go a little more pass heavy. But anyway, it's beside the point.
You said Kyler Murray, and then it just became every quarterback because that's how we roll,
That's
man.
kind of
I
how we
mean
roll.
that's
Yeah.
and I know that's kind of what fantasy analysts are now saying because like it's just become a thing. Wait on quarterback. Why spend I feel like
It
I feel
it's
like I was
becoming
way
more
ahead of
common
this curve.
knowledge, but I definitely still wanted to mention it because
But
Kyler
I mean,
Murray
like
was the
some
perfect
people though,
opportunity to
like
do that.
and I don't and like and sometimes too. And here's the argument against um not waiting on quarterback is that say you're a Chiefs fan and you're in the beginning of the third round or the end of the second, and you're like, I want to root for my guy Pat Mahomes because I'm a Chiefs fan and I want him on my fantasy team because he's a good quarterback too. Fine, do it. That's
Go for
great.
it.
You know,
Yep,
like Pat Mahomes is going to put up good numbers for you.
no doubt.
That's cool. We're just saying, like I want to have fun watching I want to have fun watching football, and so I'm going to get Pat Mahomes on my team. He's going to score me some points. Great. Especially if you're like, and I got Tyreek Hill in the first too. Why not, put them
Have fun
together
with
or
it. Yeah,
something?
yeah. I have fun winning, so that's why I wait on
Yeah.
quarterback.
No,
But you're
that's cool.
right. Have
I,
fun playing fantasy. That's what it's all about. I do that. I think off air.
it
I
is.
mentioned I went for Dak in the sixth one year. I think it was last year when he got hurt,
Mm-hmm.
and it might have been
Mm-hmm.
super
Mm-hmm.
flex.
You
I don't.
doomed you doomed Dak. No, yeah, I
It
think
might
it
have
was
been
in
your,
regular.
or was it your league?
I
I think
think
it
it
was
was in
your league. I
keeper
think it
league.
was sixth round of your league. Yeah. So
Anyways,
I'm
so
not
my
immune
next
to it
my
either,
next guy
folks.
is my next guy is actually two guys because I cheated because it's our show and I can dictate the rules if I can kind of dictate the rules if I want. Um, Chris has to say it too. Um, he does.
Yes.
Um, he's shaking his head now. My next two guys is Robert Woods and Cooper Cup. Too low. And why do I think that he's too low? These guys, I guess, is Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is an amazing quarterback. Yeah, he's in his mid 30s now and whatever. This guy he still has a hell of an arm on him, and he can bomb the ball down the field. And while Robert Woods is not the fastest guy in the world, and Cooper Cup is maybe faster, but still not the fastest, they certainly like I know has certainly proven that he can, outrun some DBs
He
and
can run
everything.
for sure.
And I think maybe people are people forgetting about 2019 when both of these guys were like top 15 wide receivers.
Yes, I think they
Like
are
that's
forgetting. Absolutely.
yeah, Robert Woods is 28 and Cooper Cup is 26. So, Woods is getting towards the tail end of the prime of his life, physically, you know, but Cooper Cup's right smack dab in the middle. And man, I want both these guys, like I'd rather take either one of them over Kenny Galladay, who I love Kenny Galladay, but
Hmm.
I'd rather have him over Mike Evans and Chris Godwin because I think the Tampa Bay wide receivers situation is just a fantasy mess. Um, I just what do you think, man? What's your take
I
on this?
I mean, it's a guaranteed 100 and probably closer to 50 targets than 125. I'm looking at Cup's stats.
Yeah,
94 targets rookie year, 55 in 2018, which was only 8 games, so you can
he
extrapolate
was
that.
injured.
Assume that was going to be 100 targets plus
Mhm.
134 targets, 124 targets. And then you
Yeah,
up the passing volume with a better quarterback and Stafford. Are they still going to run? Yes, they're still going to lean on that defense and that running game, but you up the efficiency of the passes. Yeah, man, it's wheels up. I'm all about these receivers being
Rams offense
undervalued.
kind of period. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
Malcolm Brown leaving town like that ups the running back room
breakers.
to
Hmm.
me like with Akers and to a lesser extent Daryl Henderson. I still think Daryl Henderson's going to have a role. I don't think it's going to be the Cam Akers show
I do, but I
100%.
was still putting Akers above Swift because I started. We both started coming down on Swift because of Williams coming into town, and just I think Swift is a little
And I'm
more
still there
pass.
too.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't get
That's
me
what I'm
wrong. I
saying.
love Swift. Don't get me wrong at all. But I still
Couldn't agree more.
Jamal
Yep.
Williams is. I think Jamal Williams is going to have a role too. And is it
Yep.
going to be
So what
the
I'm saying
majority
is
Swift? Yeah.
less so than Henderson or whomever else is behind Henderson
Yeah.
in L.A. I had to
Yeah.
remember
So
L.A.
I mean, both these guys. I'm sorry, I don't have a big giant argument like I do with Jonathan
Mhm.
Taylor, but
And even if you're
I
not,
just I
go ahead. Sorry,
and when
I
it
jumped in
comes
there.
to Woods and Cup, right now Woods is the 501, which I don't think I said earlier, and Cup is the 508. So
Yeah, they're
give me
kind
the
of riding the
cheaper one,
fence there.
Cooper Cup, which I'm always going to prefer Cooper Cup over Robert Woods because of 2019, and
Yeah, me
I
too.
had him on my my championship team or my runner-up team, I guess, that
And
year.
his really good year 2019, he had 10 touchdowns. You can almost like I'm
Yeah.
expecting because all his other seasons he was single digit touchdowns. So I think that goes up.
Well, some of that's Goff
I
too.
would say a little bit of pushback on going with the cheaper one or going Cup over Woods is that Woods is probably more the outside guy, and I feel like Stafford has kind of always preferred
Yeah.
the outside receivers as opposed to the tight ends and
Not not
slots.
not necessarily not true because Golden Tate was very fantasy relevant
Sure,
when Golden Tate was in Detroit.
but
So
was
you can't
Galladay there yet
might
or
have been his
healthy?
rookie season. Might have been
Might
his
have been.
rookie season.
That might be accurate,
Yep.
actually. Yeah, yeah. So that's conjecture. That's yeah. That's
Marvin
not necessary.
Jones was still there though, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean the
Marvin Jones has always been outside guy
the
though,
then still alive Eric Ebron was still there and
and he
whatever.
had
And
that. Well, he didn't get productive till he left Detroit.
who's that?
Ebron, that one year in Pittsburgh, he did really well. Caught like 11
You
touchdowns or
mean you
something.
mean Indianapolis?
That's what I meant. Reverse that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
After he left
And
Detroit,
and he
stopped in
ended up
Indy, had the great year, and then hadn't done anything
it had
since.
like 13 touchdowns that season. That was in
My
2019, I
point. My point
believe,
was it
when I
wasn't in
was
Detroit. My point was
my fantasy team in 2019 was amazing, and I lost because of stupid Lamar Jackson.
the truth comes out, folks.
That buzzsaw.
The
That
truth comes out.
buzzsaw. And Mark Andrews too. They just destroyed me in the championship. Those two, like,
Yeah. What
oh
about the
man.
championship before that? Did you win that one? And what did you win that on?
Yes,
A stat correction in the
maybe,
championship game? Yeah, maybe it's called karma, there, buddy.
maybe.
Suck it up.
It's not my fault that Nick Foles was terrible, and that's who my opponent chose as quarterback that particular game. That was a bad decision. I loved it.
Stat correction, folks.
One on a
Obviously, he
stat
earned the
correction
right to win the game and the right to be in the game with his fantasy
with
managing up
my
to that
with my
point.
with my
I'm
my,
just
my
saying.
good team. Yes.
I'm just saying karma
Anyways,
shined on your hiney that year, and you probably deserved a little less karma the next year. A little less good karma.
I was going for the repeat, man. The
That's
repeat.
true.
It was.
It's
I
true.
could
You get
taste it.
selfish. Yeah.
I could
You
taste
want
it.
more.
Anyways, that's enough. That's enough
That was it, wasn't
of our
it?
keeper league, which is just bonkers. That was our list. That
Hmm.
was AFFB versus ADP. Um, as Chris mentioned, at towards the beginning of the show, we are taking the month of June off. We are going to work on some rankings, some behind the scenes stuff, trying to just really up the game, the
Hmm.
show's game, and we're going to come back strong in July. At some point, we will be switching to the show will come out on early Friday mornings
Yep.
because we'll be doing
So you can use them the matchup shows. Yep.
we'll be doing matchup based analysis, and everything. But
Which
that
is really
once
the meat
that
and
happens,
bones. The meat and bones. What the heck is meat and bones? Is
meat and
that?
bones
It's like the meat pie of fantasy football. I'm just
with
kidding.
bones in it.
Oh, now I'm gonna lose my train of
I
thought. What
mean, the
I'm
meat
trying to
up the
say is
bone.
matchup shows are really the actionable content that you kind of need
I mean,
during the season.
the meat and
You
potatoes,
well,
perhaps.
thank you. The meat and potatoes of regular season fantasy football, both redraft, dynasty, all of it, because you got to know who to start. You got to know your matchups, who they're facing. It's really where we make our hay during the regular season.
Yeah,
So I'm
that's
looking
true.
forward to
But I
it.
mean, we still got a lot of we got more ideas for off-season content. We just
Yep.
wanted to take June off because it's usually a really slow NFL news and everything.
Hmm.
But we wanted to just up the infrastructure of the show as well. So
Yep.
you know,
Need some time to
until
do that.
then, though, we will have some player-focused videos, which we were calling Eye On videos. I am almost done with my eye on Tua
Tua.
Tagovailoa, the Miami Dolphins quarterback. After that, I'm going to be doing DeAndre Swift and probably like Michael Pittman. Maybe I'll do Jonathan Taylor just to really hammer
Bite me.
home the fact that he's not a first rounder. Um, anyways, so I got to get the heck out of here. I'm still not 100%. So until next time, everyone, which will be in July. I would like you all to have a goodbye.
Later, everyone.